Come on, really? You mean to tell me that people actually conspire to place occult symbols on Hollywood projects despite the hundreds of people that work on a given project for, what, some esoteric magic reasons you don't even understand? Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. Welcome to Strange Blue Dot. What if I were to tell you that not only are we experiencing uncharted times economically and culturally due to this pandemic, that the world is about to be taken over by artificial intelligence? Don't believe me? Well, check out these four-legged robotic police assistants. It appears that certain police districts across the nations are having no reservations when it comes to silently bringing in these bots. And I can guarantee you certain pets will have no reservations trying to tear that thing into little pieces. And I myself will have equally no reservations grabbing a bag of popcorn and watching that animal eat that robot. I mean, if it was like somebody else's pet and, they let it loose by accident and nobody got arrested, you know what I mean. Yes, if you didn't notice, pets are not a fan of robots. Now, if you recognize these robots, it's probably because Boston Dynamics as a company had no problem marketing RoboCop technology via curious teenage Facebookers.
Get it right?
And I'm talking about before they got all cinematic and shit. And what if I were to tell you that in the middle of the pandemic, one of the most watched television shows whose main plots revolves around the idea of the world being taken over by centralized AI intelligence is deliberately flooding episode after episode with Illuminati-like symbols, almost as if to poke fun of the ones who dare believe that it may not all be an accident. When I published my first episode about what I perceived to be occult symbols littered all over the pilot episode of season 3 of the HBO show Westworld, I have to admit I had a bit of skepticism that maybe, just maybe, I was kind of overreaching with my thoughts. And certainly it seemed others felt similarly.
Yo, you way too overthink things. Come back from the ledge.
Please, no! However, the idea that these symbols in the first episode of season 3 could just be an accident became more and more distant as episodes continued to be broadcasted. Symbol after symbol, it became very apparent that somebody was sending a message. A message so disturbing, you would have to assume the worst to believe it to be true. So I ask you, does Hollywood mirror reality using symbology? Maybe one day I would have said, no way. But not today. Today, I assert that not only is Hollywood supposedly foretelling the future, they're doing so using symbols reminiscent of this very pandemic. Which is to say, I don't really believe that the producers of the show Westworld are actually using psychic foretelling. So what does that mean? I guess I could spell it out for you, but I don't think it's allowed to say explicitly on YouTube anymore, so I'll end it with a nod in hopes that you get my gist, if you get my plan. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, we are here at the Analysis Pod, and today we're going to be going over Season 3, Episode 5, and basically, I wanted to show all the occult symbols that are basically littered all over this episode. So, to sum up as quickly as I can, this is all about this robot that escaped this, containment type world, no different than like a Truman type world. And she escaped to the real world, to where humans are living their lives. And in this real world, there's this huge artificial intelligent brain. Think of it as a super intelligence that is essentially tracking and tracing every single human beings, no different than like Facebook or Google. And the whole point of tracing and tracking every single person is to be able to not only predict their behavior, but possibly modify their behavior in hopes that this super intelligent AI brain can stop human extinction from happening. So in this particular episode, we got our robot friend here, Dolores. I say friend the protagonist, she's just gotten into the real world, and now she's trying to infiltrate that super artificial intelligent brain, trying to infiltrate its system in hopes that she can destroy everything. And what I mean by destroy everything is by enlightening everybody. So her whole goal is to give the people this information, which would essentially snap the people out of their artificial intelligence loop. So that is the whole driving force of this episode. It's called Genres. Really cool, very interesting, and I'm going to get back to the meaning of that. So let's go ahead and start the episode with our first symbol that we have over here. In the very beginning, there is this destruction that's happening upon the world. And this is the story of the main antagonist, Sirach, the guy who has essentially, with his schizophrenic brother, attempted to build this god-like artificial intelligence that is supposed to, according to his philosophy, save humanity from themselves. So my brother was sui generis. Like no other, he kept us alive until we were found. I wanted to stay, but he said there's a time to leave things behind. I said that God had abandoned us. He said that God had never existed in the first place. Why is this line so important? Well, because the very next symbol, outside of seeing human destruction, catastrophe, chaos, things that are very reminiscent of what could be happening in a near future in our reality, this reality. So then he says, so we came to the new world with one goal, to build a god. So we built you, referring to the god. But there were problems. Now, this is really interesting because look at the symbol, okay? I've been wondering about this for a while. What is this? What is this up and down, all these weird lines, right? There's a problem, there's flies in the ointment. I don't know if you know that statement, but when there's flies in the ointment, it means like you're spoiling something good. So the whole idea is that his whole plans can be spoiled by what is called outliers. You can think about like Neo in The Matrix. He's an outlier. So these were the individuals that were making it impossible for the system to predict the human future in absolute 100% certainty. Very cool scene because this that goes right into his watch, the symbol, it means something really important. And I'm talking about esoteric symbols. I'm talking about the Kabbalah, religion. So this episode starts with this very strange symbol, and I had no idea what this was at first. I was kind of like thinking of this as the all-seeing eye type of symbology, but there's something actually deeper about this. Now, do you see these columns, right? As I go up and down, you see how these kind of weird disease-like filaments start going up and down? And I was wondering what that was until I discovered this. Check this out. You see that? So this symbol is the Ein Sof, which is one of the primal symbols in Hebrew, signifying the primal God prior to his manifestation, meaning before he essentially destroyed himself into 1,000 little pieces, in which I guess part of the Kabbalistic belief is that part of the human purpose is to essentially pick up those pieces that were broken from this initial unifying God. So the term for this is Ein Sof. And here is one pictorial depiction of it, which I think is stunningly close to this one. But let me show you the other one, and you'll see my point right away. Right there. So, look, when I saw this for the first time, it became very clear to me that yes, these guys are very, very deliberate about how they're trying to signify some of these symbols. And certainly that white background, I would say, is the primal symbol of the Kabbalah God. So I just wanted to quickly point out this moment. This is where Caleb has been inserted this drug. And it has to do with the title of the episode and something I'm going to talk about later on. It's called genre. So the drug is called genre. So this is essentially, his mind has gone into this like different genre. This, and it's a really interesting concept because what is genre? What does that really mean? It's kind of like a general categorization of a style for filmmaking. So does that have deeper reflections as to how the mind works? The different ways that we categorize films actually reflect the structural makeup of our very minds, or some of the basic primal aspects and needs of our minds. Just want to kind of drop that idea real quick. So this particular scene is kind of interesting because it's right about the point where they start hijacking, these robots start hijacking the entire system. And right when they do so, look at this. First we got hexagram, very typical symbols for Kabbalistic rituals. And as we go forward, look at these symbols. Look, I can't tell you exactly what those symbols are, but if you look at, some of these occult symbols, you see this kind of pattern of 4, almost, and you kind of see that happening with these symbols as well. And something else I want to show you, and you can kind of also see some of the resemblance with these type of symbols, and just this kind of like cross-like symbol where you see circles within the 4 segments of this is something I'm always seeing, and it's kind of esoteric Kabbalah-like symbols. Here's some sacred geometry that also kind of has similar properties. You probably know the hexagram constantly being used in Kabbalah. So moving forward, so these characters are, Caleb here is drugged out. These characters are on their little journey to try to find this super artificial intelligence. Look at this. Look how they go through this hole. Once again, you got the Ein Sof symbol, the symbol of their god. And this is an interesting scene between the transaction where the main antagonist, Hirak, is kind of showcasing to Liam Dempsey all the possible predictions that this artificial intelligence can create. So essentially here, he's like, well, what prediction do you want? Let's get you the highest one, and then gets the guy $100 million. So it's pretty showing of what artificial intelligences are capable of doing once they get the data of human behavior. If we just kind of press forward here, check this out. So this is hard to see, but this looks a little bit like the all-seeing eye. And I've shown you another example in a different episode that kind of took that same shape. And look at this. And this is very reminiscent of the Illuminati ray that's coming out of the sun. Now, of course, they're trying to show this with this symbol that they previously showed as Ein Sof, but not just that, but they're right here, they're specifically talking, and I'm going to read you the text because it's actually kind of relevant. The character says, "For a time the sun and the moon aligned. We brought order out of chaos." And so, yeah, okay, great that the sun and the moon aligned, that's called eclipse. But this isn't exactly a perfect eclipse. And the reason why is because you start seeing this black area filter into the right side. So you got this Illuminati type rays. This looks more like an eyeball from the sides, like a cornea from the side. So to me, this is like another variation of the eye symbol. And I'm going to show you another one to make this point more clear if you don't see that right away. But there was a bigger problem. In every projection, the world came unglued. There were people, outliers, agitators, who you couldn't predict or control. And then I realized my brother was one of those. He didn't fit the world anymore, and the world didn't fit him, and it drove him mad. That's the image I want to show it to you. Look, this does not look like a solar eclipse. Yeah, remotely, but look at the way the sun bleeds into the right side. Okay, this was what I was trying to tell you earlier. That right there looks like a cornea from the side. So this to me is like another variation of the all-seeing eye symbol, kind of mixed in with the Ein Sof symbology of the primal god. But what's also interesting about the scene is that this character, as it says here, he was one of the outliers, one of the agitators. So does that mean that the computer, the super intelligence mind that's supposed to organize all the people's data, does that mean that that computer in itself is an outlier? That it has its own means of thinking that might be different than most other artificial intelligences because it was built from a schizophrenic outlier mind? It's kind of interesting because it does play into the season finale. Here we got the Illuminati ray type symbols again, kind of crisscrossing with the train symbol going in opposition to each other. Now this is a really interesting scene because they were talking about the idea of hope, whether hope can be good or bad for humans. Should humans know everything about their possible future, about, how transparent should we be when an artificial intelligence can predict what it is that you're going to be like? Well, this scene is the people being revealed their entire lives, essentially. And this is kind of like the ungluing process. Now, I just want to finish off this scene by talking about the concepts of transparency versus information. It's also transparency versus chaos. Because the whole idea is that social media organizations can apparently control chaos, control the inevitable consequences that are going to happen because of what humans are capable of doing by taking away information, not letting humans know what their possibilities are. I can attest, having been shadow banned before, this is a fucking living hell, living like that, where somebody controls all your information, controls your ability to network with your own audience, and you have zero knowledge of when you're actually getting really down. What is the algorithm that they use to switch between authoritative sources and non-authoritative sources? For YouTube creators who make a living off of this, whose entire existence is relying on this, by not giving those creators transparency, I think it's a way of YouTube saying, you're my slave. Get the F out. You think you got a life beyond me? You think you're gonna talk crap about me? Well, then you will feel the wrath of being shadow banned, of being kicked out of your tribe, of having nothing but hope, yet an outcome of ultimate hopelessness. And that is ultimately what the scene is about, because Caleb, I don't want to make this too complicated here, but Caleb goes through this awesome analogy about rats in the war, where they would create a trap for rats to drown in, but if they lifted the water too much, the rats would think that maybe, just maybe, they can get out. So instead of drowning right away, the rats would just swim and swim and swim and swim, suffering before they were inevitably gonna die. So I think that this idea that I'm talking about is very analogous. The idea of being shadow banned is very analogous to the scene, and also the idea that people are finally being given the information and being taken out of the loop. Now, it's going to be difficult. It would be difficult to know, oh shit, I'm going to die 15 years from now. That would be really not fun to find that out. But despite how uncomfortable information is, it's nonetheless liberating. And I think that's the point of this episode. And I don't know if you noticed, but look at your right. Look at the corner on the right side. Oh! We got that disease mask again. So not do we just have all these esoteric symbols that we've been showing you, we're also talking about pandemic symbols, which begs the question, what the hell did they know? This is where the real world is kind of unwinding, is being threaded out, because now everybody's been given the information that was kept from them. And so essentially they're no longer tied to this loop that was the predictive model that the artificial intelligence had created for everybody. Really cool. So we get here to Bernard looking at this huge screen. Look at all the hexagons. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we got a hexagonal circular shape within another hexagon. And do I need to show you guys again? Also I should note that the Egyptian mathematics, I think they dealt with a hexadecimal system, meaning it was 60 was the number to go to the next digit, so to speak. Yeah, I mean, it's all kind of interesting. And this character says a really important line right here. The right information at the right time is deadlier than any weapon. I think any writer can concur with that statement. But the reason why I'm bringing this up is to say that information is as deadly as a weapon, or more deadly than a weapon, is an Illuminati idea. The torch of enlightenment, the illuminated ones. Because the Illuminati is all about the attainment of information and then the containment of information to the rest. Once again, going to that transparency chaos idea. So straight off the bat, when they get off the train and there's all this chaos, dogs running around, people pushing each other, right behind this couple, you see the Buddhist sign. It's not a big deal, but just to kind of show you that this particular Buddhist statue is significant of the, ones who are seeking protection from fear. At least this variation of it. So moving on, we get here and we have the Ein Sof symbol again. We got Sirach, the main antagonist, in an airplane. Kind of like this deifying type of role, overseeing above everything. Then he looks at his watch, which is a symbol of control. Then you got the all-seeing eye, that weird cornea-looking eye that turns into the Ein Sof. So a lot of symbols packed in just a quick few seconds. Not sure if there's any significance to this, but as Liam Dempsey, one of the antagonists, is walking up this ramp, you can see the God Bless America sign. And I just thought it was interesting because the intro seems to show an eagle that's getting destroyed by this jet turbine that looks like an eye. So, I don't know, I just thought I should point that out. And then this scene is actually kind of cool because this robotic character, who's actually a traitor, ends up blowing himself up. And look at the bomb real quick. Tell me that does not look like an owl. Here's its little beaks, here are its eyes. Just thought that's kind of interesting. If you know anything about the Bohemian Grove, they not only have an owl as one of their symbols, they also have the idea of weaving spiders come not here. They don't want any of these Maya goddesses that are harmonic with the universe and try to bring the order into the universe. They want to bring order themselves, apparently. So then that woman in her last moment blows up into the shape of a DNA. Thought that was kind of interesting. But as we push forward, this is one of my favorite reveals. Like, absolutely just stunning. Check this out. Oh! What? It's like, whoa. No. This was shot last year, by the way. Not this year. This was shot a year ago. I know this because I know people who worked on that set. And by the way, as kind of like a insider note, the people who worked on that set said it was one of the creepiest, most authoritarian sets they've ever worked in, because essentially people were getting fired for just pulling out their phones in that set. That I know for certain. So I know this was shot a year ago. So what the freaking hell are they doing setting up this reveal? I mean, there is no other purpose to this scene other than to show this girl with a disease mask. How did they know? We should be asking these questions. This is really weird. This is the second time I've shown you a disease mask, but this one just happens to be a full out reveal. Blocked. Oh, let's zoom into her with a disease mask. So just to kind of reiterate, we go from an owl-looking bomb that blows up into a DNA, and then we got a reveal of a disease mask. Okay, whatever. Now, if you caught one of the first few episodes, I talked about how the pier was the symbol for the obelisk. So, and in that scene, the two characters were also both wearing all black. They were talking about witchcraft type ideas. They're talking about the magic 8-ball. So I call that the obelisk witchcraft scene. Little did I know that in the future episodes, one of the main characters, Liam Dempsey Jr., ends up getting killed literally underneath the obelisk. So is this some form of sacrifice? What does this mean that he's being killed under what we thought was symbolized as an obelisk? And it's just, I don't know, man. It's a very creepy, very strange scene. And he starts having weird flashbacks, not that different than like MK Ultra type ideas. So I don't know what to say, man. When a guy gets killed like sacrificial type of way right underneath the obelisk and you're reflecting back, there's a lot there. There's a lot there to digest. Let's put it that way. And if you didn't believe me that these things are looking like owls, look at the back end of this vehicle and tell me that doesn't look like the claws of an owl. And this is not the only vehicle that looks like an owl. We've seen all kinds of other vehicles that has an owl's face, including that bomb that had the owl's face. So yeah, I thought that was kind of weird. And then we got the Ein Sof, all-seeing eye from the sky going back into the ground type scene. Very reminiscent of the all-seeing eye once again. Now, this scene is really interesting because, okay, we just saw that Liam Dempsey Jr. character get killed. Now, this dude is getting killed by Sirach right next to his airplane. So this is actually a setup. And as he's getting dragged away, the camera zooms out and we are in this eye. Okay, once again, the all-seeing eye symbolism. But there's a little bit more than just the all-seeing eye. There is something that is akin to a reflection that is happening in her eyes of her retrieving digital memories. And so it's also a looking through the glass type of scene. Looking through the glass, it was a sequel to Alice in Wonderland. But Alice again enters a fantastical world, this time by climbing through a mirror into the world that she can see beyond it. There she finds that just like a reflection, everything is reversed, including logic. So he's having a meeting with a robot, but he's just a hologram at this moment. And so right after that symbol that I showed you, look what happens. Dolores, in defiance, literally walks through him. As if to walk through the illusion, as if to break through the looking glass. He does not affect her. He's non-existent to her. Just, I don't know, maybe you guys can drop your thoughts about if there's any significance with that. He seems pretty pissed off about it. Once again, you got the all-seeing eye, the cornea from the side looking symbol. He's pissed off as hell. Then Caleb, the last scene, really important, Caleb comes in. This dude gives him something. And Caleb goes, "What's this?" And the guy goes, "I don't know. I'm just here to deliver it." Now, I think this is kind of a relevant line because the guy's delivering something that he doesn't know what it is. And the whole idea that we've been talking about is the idea of being illuminated, the idea that ideas have power, the looking through the glass, what it means to confront the information about yourself, about your future, about what is possible. So when this guy gives him something and doesn't know what it is, he is indicative of somebody who is just, quote unquote, taking orders. Right after the guy says, "I don't know what it is," Caleb takes the object, and look at this. Out of all the thousands of hundreds of whatever things you could do at this moment, he just looks at his hand. Why? I don't know, but presumably it's because it's beat up. But if you look closely, look at this. Do you see it? There is the all-seeing eye. Again, almost in like a reptilian type form, I would say. It looks very weird. So you got the eye over here. So he literally has an eye in his hand. Okay, you want to talk about occult? You want to talk about going all crazy? That is it right there. You have an eye in his hand with a guy who is just marching orders, who doesn't know what he's delivering. And then let me read you this last line because this is absolutely unbelievable. I can't believe this. He goes to Dolores and he says, "Maybe people shouldn't know their own fate." Dolores responds, "People have to know their own fate. You wanted to know, right? Maybe, but I'm not like other people." Then she responds, "Either am I." Once again, going with the idea of chaos versus information, transparency versus order. You know, he literally had the all-seeing eye in his hand as a guy is blindly delivering him something with no knowledge of what it is. And then he goes and questions Dolores in a very existentialistic way. Hey, should people really know their own fate? So now you see that it's not just the symbols, it's even the theme of the show that is very thematic to this kind of eyes wide open type of ideas, the looking through the glass, you know, this kind of what am I living under type of idea. So ladies and gentlemen, I will end it with that. That was pretty filled. That was a lot, and I can tell you that this is not going to end with this episode. We still have to cover the last 3 episodes, which are absolutely filled with symbols. So there you have it. That's it for our analysis. Now, I know some may point out that there may be a general pattern of a pandemic outbreak happening every century in human history. Yeah, that's kind of true. But consider that specifically what we are talking about on this episode is the simultaneous world artificial intelligence takeover in the middle of a pandemic, the exact year that one of the biggest television shows not only bases its entire plot on a centralized artificial intelligence takeover, it does so with all the aforementioned symbols, including starting the season with this symbol. Now, it may seem disturbing to consider all of this, but from personal experience, I can say the more you confront the uncomfortable when it is actually calling for your attention, the more resilient you become in the end. Now, I hope you're ready for the season finale because the symbols certainly don't end here. This is Felipe speaking, signing out. So I have a new channel and I will be migrating all my Strange Blue Dot videos to this new channel. Due to the recent algorithmic changes, small channels like these have been hit unusually hard, if you haven't noticed. To help us continue and help us grow, please check it out and, subscribe if you like the content.